Call the City of Leesburg Electric Advisory Board meeting to order Monday, May 6, 2024. If Jesse would bless us tonight.
Absolutely. Lord, we thank you for today. We thank you for the people. We thank you for your guidance. And I just pray that we're able to make decisions that will be able to honor our city and make us better. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Let's stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, everybody had the minutes sent to them earlier. They had a chance to take a look at them. Are there any changes to the minutes? And if not, I would entertain a motion for approval.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Item 3, presentation, CIPs.
So Brad had some scheduled vacay, so standing in for Brad is Chris Atkins. So, Chris?
Hi there, I'm Chris Atkins, one of the deputy directors of the electric department. I'm here with Greg David, the other deputy director, and Marie, who helps us with the budget and financing. So I want to go through this presentation that Brad put together. A couple of things are on here are going to be stuff that's already been talked about. So we'll move fairly quickly through some of this stuff. Again, this is a service area for the City of Leesburg Electric Department, and that's been presented before. I want to talk about revenues. We got residential sales as part of the our revenues. Those things have been talked about before as well. Commercial sales, both demand and non-demand. We also have rental light agreements that brings in some revenue. Street lights do as well. Pole attachment fees, other utilities that are attached to our poles, they have to pay us a fee. So those bring in revenue as well. Other charges for change of services, new services, meter tampers, those all bring in a fee as well. We also have a surge protection program, meter treaters. Those are rented out on a monthly basis to residents to help with surge throughout the whole house. So that brings in revenue as well. And then the customer aid to construction, that is part of new construction. So we'll go over that in just a minute. CIP funding sources, some of this you've already gone over with the city manager. The renewal and replacement is part of the funding for us. Customer aid and construction, that's associated with new projects. The amount varies depending on the revenue that new construction is going to bring in. So it's a costing that costs us to do the work, and that's one component, and the revenue that they're going to add to the system is a component as well. We'll talk about that a little bit more in later slides. We have projected revenues and possible grant funding. I worked on grant funding for DOE. We were unfortunately not able to get that funding. We also have another 10 grants that are out right now to the Florida Department of Emergency Management. Those are for some projects that we'd like to do, and hopefully we'll get funding for those. And there's no time limit, time right now for when we'll know about that.
How often do we get grants actually awarded to us?
I'm sorry?
How often are grants actually awarded to us?
In the electric department, we haven't done them that much. So we're just now getting into them because of the, trying to increase the revenue that we have coming in, do some projects.
Is it something that's an application process?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah, and the only thing I'd add to that too, as far as the electric side of the house, grants, so FEMA money is considered grants. So those are always pretty, I'll use the word always. Those are typically available. I changed on you. Those are typically available on a declared storm for utilities, for municipal electric utilities. Grants up until recently in the electric department, non-existent. So the grants really have more to do with the federal government doing some different things with electrification and going solar and these type of things. So the grant stuff that we applied for in the past month, which we didn't, or 6 months, that we got rejected. That's a brand new program from the new administration. So in my 30 years, that's the first time I've heard of grants for municipal utilities
Do you have a grant writer for the city, or?
internally.
Any other questions? Moving on to the capital improvement plan and system repairs. The capital improvement process is updated every 5 years. The plan is, and that supports a long-term planning horizon. We do studies and analysis and estimates to justify the plan. We ensure that net revenue for both capital and O&M are covered so that we can cover that plan. System repairs are unplanned, things that go bump in the night, replacing, repairing, and upgrading things as needed, and costs to provide utility service. Any questions there? Moving on to contingency plans. As per prudent industry practices, we do a study annually to look at the feeders and also the buses inside the substation to determine what loading we can expect in the future. The process involves doing outaging, what we call outaging, or creating a problem or planning for a problem, and then trying to solve that with the system capabilities that we currently have. We identify restoration concerns, identify unserved load situations, and identify opportunities to improve. Typically not performed on loss of entire substation. However, this year, because we have one of our substations down at North Sub number 1, we're running at one transformer at that substation. So we did do a contingency plan there to try to ensure that we can feed that load if another transformer, if the other transformer breaks.
Quick question. Can you kind of define what unserved load situation means?
Well, we have opportunities sometimes at the end of our lines whenever we know things are coming, and those are right now unserved because we don't have any lines there. But we know things are coming in that area. So that's part of a consideration we have whenever we do these studies.
Okay, thank you.
So you
Okay.
mentioned one of the transformers that's currently down?
Yes.
And are we waiting on a new one? Is it maintenance? What's the?
Yeah, it's been down about 2 years, and we've been trying to fix it this whole time. So we hope to be able to get some budgetary money for getting a new one ordered.
Am I correct, at the last meeting, did they not say that we had an inventory?
We do have an inventory.
We have an inventory of transformers like it would be at your house.
Okay.
But we don't have an inventory of substation grade transformers.
Okay.
But they're continuing to work on that transformer at North. We hope to have some information about that, Greg.
I
This
don't
week.
mean to interrupt because I see the cloud. So back to kind of the steps here. So transmission lines
Right.
into the substations.
Right.
So when you're driving down the road, like over here, and you see the big giant transformers in each substation, there's 2 in each substation, or over here in Controller, you see the 2, you see the big high wires hooking into it. That's the type of transformer he's talking about.
Okay.
Okay, so so to put those in place, you're talking $1 million. Okay, so when you have your lights go out and you hear pop, that's pole mount transformer.
Okay,
That's like $3,500.
right.
Okay,
Okay, perfect.
so that's right. That's on the transmission side.
Okay,
That's the one that caught fire a couple of years ago.
Yes.
Over there across the
Over
desk.
here
Yeah.
Yeah.
at East Subset by Catrali.
That was actually the Duke transmission breaker more than our transformer.
So this is a different transformer that's down. You said.
Yes.
Mark.
It's in North Substation.
North.
It's on 468
Oh,
in
okay.
Marcella Way.
Okay.
And it is going to be replaced or repaired? Did you say repair?
We're working on repairing it, but it is a 1957 transformer, then rebuilt in 92. So it's a little old.
Okay, right. And just so everybody kind of knows, we know we're paying attention here. So these things shouldn't be like bump in the night, kind of what's the city doing. Over at North Substation, so about 4 years ago, we replaced 4 transformers. So the total cost on that project was $4 million. So that was a big deal. That was a big project. At North Substation, we identified that one of the 2 transformers was in very poor shape. So that's replaced. So what the strategy, and we'll talk more about this next month when we do budget. But so now we're going back to kind of the second tier of transformers that we want changed out. So while we're telling you we got a transformer we want to change out, it's sitting next to a brand new one. So that should ease your mind a little bit.
Yes.
Okay?
I had a quick question. Would we be able to get a map of the substations so that we have them
Absolutely.
in general?
I think we did that in another
Oh, okay.
presentation, but we'll get it back out to
Okay,
you.
and then also, what's the station that's directly across from Dr. Glover's office?
That's Center.
Center? Okay.
That's Center.
Thank you.
Okay, and again, the analysis is done at peak loading conditions. Go too far. Upgrades and extensions. On the right page. We got local loading issues, large and new specific commercial or subdivision growth would fit in that category. Also, incremental issues over time, just think more people put more things in their house, need more electricity, so we see those things in our study as well. We also want to improve redundancy and switching configurations. And all the feeders that we have opportunities to switch that load in the field. We can do it both at the office and we can do it in the field. So we want to try to improve those opportunities so that we can always bring as many people back up as quickly as we can and repair the damaged area.
So, are we actually seeing like a typical residential customer, their load grow over time? The study that we did this year that I'm wrapping up, that I'll give to Brad to review when he gets back, it shows about, on the 10-year average, about 2%, a little bit more, 2.5%, on an annual increase. Wow,
For the last
seems like
three
more
years.
efficient stuff people are still using.
Last 3 years, I think we're,
People have swimming pools, they buy electric cars, they do that type of stuff.
yeah. So the last 3 years, I think, was 7%, 4%, and then somewhere around 4% last year, just on general growth.
And just so you understand the gravity of 3 to 4% growth, I would say that is a solid good growth number. It's not too fast, it's not too slow, but also in our system, when we did our initial reviews with the department heads here the other day, I called it we're not outgrowing the weather, right? So we could have it cloudy at 3 o'clock on July 27th at 2 p.m. And that cloud could be significant enough to either increase or decrease our total cost by 3%. Make sense?
Another thing to understand, we're looking at this week having hot weather. Whenever you have multiple hot weather days in a row, they increment up the usage by customers because they're continually being hot, so they run their AC down. So we see that growth on a rolling week basis during the summer. Targeted reliability improvements. The study of outage trends and analysis. We have an outage management system that gives us a report. We run it weekly and monthly to determine what outages are going on in specific areas, pieces of equipment that are going out on a regular basis. We want to go out there and try to figure out what's wrong so that we can stop that outage from happening in the future. We look at sustained and momentary outages, fuse coordination and isolation. We try to coordinate our system to where the least amount of people are out whenever a fault happens, so a fuse will take it out or a piece of equipment will. And we look at aged infrastructure. Sometimes we have equipment out there, some old wire that's brittle, it's easier to come down during windstorms. The available tools that we have, we may add feeder reclosers, which look down the line to see faults and deal with them and isolate them. We're also working to develop what we call a flisser system. It monitors the system. Whenever it sees a fault, it will automatically switch around and isolate that section. So we used to have one in place out at the mall area, but the company we had with discontinued supporting it, but now we're trying to do that internally. We hope to have that up shortly. Potential capital improvement projects for a single year is L703 is a reconductor. That's a section in Fruitland Park. We have to have some upgrades there because we're seeing some growth on north of Miller and also on Register Road and also on Spring Lake Road that it could be potentially be coming. So we need to do that. We plan to replace about 85 older poles. We have those poles inspected on an 8-year cycle, and they tell us what poles that need to be replaced due to aging or damage. East Sub, Catrali has a transformer by themselves that they own, and that unit needs some work. Catrali will pay for that, all those costs for that work. North Sub, as I talked about before, we hope to order a replacement transformer for the transformer that's down, the older one, and the load tap changer. That's what adjusts the voltage on the transformer. It's broken and we can't get parts because of age. So they're trying their best to work through that. Maintaining replacement of system infrastructure as needed. That's just the damaged equipment, things that go break in the night.
Just a question.
Yes.
Transformer that's been down for 2 years, does that just not beg the question, why invest the money to even repair it at this point? Have you not found workarounds that might be suitable?
One of the major reasons is that once we order it, it can take 2 to 3 years to get. So we're trying to do everything we can to get it back up. So even if we did have the capital money to do that, it still takes so long, we'd still be down. So we're trying to get it back up.
And just to add on to that, that's a super good question. And those are the kind of the questions that we have internally all the time, needs versus wants. So all the substations can work with one transformer. The second one is the redundancy part of it. North Substation is precarious because the biggest section on there, not that the villages are special, but that's the biggest load into that area. So there is contingency plans. So if the new transformer goes out, there's ways that we would refeed and close that off and route so we have coverage. So the questions become the balancing act of where do you want your rates? How much do we make the electric department sweat as far as things that we know we can cover? And so these are the things that as we go through the budget process, we'll talk to you again about this next month. What strategies do we take? So those are the things that always kind of get rolled into the equation. So if it's okay, we're going to make do with the substation, we're not going to do a transformer this year, then okay, we've got to work with it. And there'll be a plan in place to how we do it. Or it's okay, what line 703, maybe we don't change that out. Or if we got to have all this done and everybody wants to pay more, then rates have to go up. So there's always a balancing act in there. So keep in mind wants and needs, and then all the things that have to be balanced with that request.
Just curious on their budget. If they do not spend all of their budget, do they carry the remainder over to the next year, or does it wipe the slate clean and start over again?
Both. So what doesn't go into what they don't spend goes into the category of an unrestricted reserve. So their cash level increases, which is actually a primary goal for fiscal year 25 for the electric fund, is to get the reserve levels back up to that $10 to $15 million range. Electric all used to sit around 20, and as we've discussed, it's dropped off for a multitude of different reasons. I don't think you need to be back up as high as 20, but right now we're sitting around 7, and that does need to come up. So yes, if they have cash left over, that goes into the bank, and then we start new. So there's not a spend it or lose it mentality. In fact, at this stage, I would be like, don't spend it, and we need to squirrel it away.
When you talk about like cash reserves, and that's something I thought about until you mentioned, okay, like so it's $1 million for a transformer, but you can't have one for 2 years. So you don't need $1 million in reserve for a transformer. You need $1 million in 2 years for a transformer.
Yes. But then that's balanced with all the other needs too.
Yeah, right. I'm just saying,
Like, remember the
do you
trucks
take account,
issues
like,
and
some of the stuff, like you can't.
and some of that's like some of those numbers are encumbered. So when you looked at we'll talk about that too. So we have an encumbered number in the cash graph. So even though we're saying we have $7 million, some of that's going to be, you will have more than that because that's restricted for encumbrances like trucks that we've ordered that haven't come in.
Yeah.
So if we would, if we do that, we'll have an encumbered number. So
Are they
That kind of watches
pre-purchased,
it out.
or is it something where they're purchased? You pay
it's
for-
ordered and paid upon delivery.
Okay.
But you have the money set aside.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So that kind of washes out.
Yes.
Sorry for the interruption.
Nope. Anything else? Some potential capital improvement projects are going to be multi-year initiatives. West Substation, that is being in the plans. We hope to be able to do that to help with the load on the west side of the service territory.
I'm sorry, sir, where's that? Where is the west substation at?
It hasn't been built yet. We just purchased the property. That's as far as things have got.
Where will that be?
2 acres north of 44 next to Pembroke Pines.
Whitney on Whitney Road, that one?
Yes, right in there.
We also have to replace the existing AMI. That's the metering system that takes all of the readings for reads. Also allows us in operations to do a couple things with turning on and turning off meters remotely. So that is being project managed by Tino Anthony in IT. So he's working through that. And so we hope to have a resolution soon.
It's good branding. AMI Solutions, much less controversial than smart grids. So. Sounds better.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Can you quickly bounce back? I think it was your first slide with the revenue, and I think there's a mention on there's a surge protection program.
Yes, sir.
Can you explain that, please?
We have a surge protection device that we get that goes in between the meter socket and the meter. And it helps with whole home surges. And we lease that out for a monthly fee. So those go for have a warranty with the company, not on us, but they warranty them and insure them. And they, so if something does get burned up, they contact the meter treater company and deal with claims and stuff. We just provide the service for them. So they're good for about 10 years, and then we have to change them out in a rotation scheduled manner.
I'm intrigued by this. Do you know, so is there an upfront like installation fee? And then you said there's an ongoing monthly cost, or is it just a monthly?
Ongoing monthly charge.
Do you know what that number is?
Around 13, I think.
$13
But I'll have
a
to
month?
check on it. Yes.
Do you have any sense as to what percentage of homes have taken advantage of that?
I do not. I can get that information.
Pretty small. If I remember correct, and I'll double check on these numbers, we have a designated fund for that. So we put it as an expense, and then we put it into a fund, and then that's what we use to pay to buy the surge protectors. I want to say we throw $100,000 at it. So about $100,000 is sitting there, and then we'll go out and buy the surge protectors as they come in. If hazard a guess, so maybe 2,500 customers of 27,000-ish.
And how do they know it exists? How do they know that this is an option for them?
I think it's on the website and some other advertising we do.
Whenever they go into customer service, the customer service reps will let them know that whenever they turn on the service, that their electric service.
I think
that
I
they
remember
have
seeing it on one of the
I think when we
monthlies
do
that they
the
have now.
it goes, yeah. So customer service, the monthly newsletter, sometimes there'll be a blip in there and those type of things.
me that more people would take advantage of it if they knew
If
about
they
it,
knew, because
right?
I
For
definitely
13
did not
bucks,
know.
Yeah.
Right.
I've
I didn't
owned my
know
home
about
since
it either.
2008.
And I hate, in any business, I hate to see revenues that being left on the table.
See, if we were a private company, we would make people opt out of it. Just show up on their bill.
Everybody loves it until everybody thinks it's great until they wonder why they pay an extra
Oh, yeah,
13
no,
bucks.
no, you can't really do that. It's just the customer service people.
I mean, I think that I do think that if you got
It's the cable box Wi-Fi router model.
Yes.
Once
Yeah.
it's in your home and it just kind of gets added on.
Yeah.
The difference is that this is providing a specific service of protecting your, expensive electronics. And I know there's a lot of electrical companies that offer that. That's why I was kind of surprised, because I didn't know that it was even an option through the city, through my
might be
electric
running into a mailer outside of your normal electric bill that gives that information.
Or a different color.
That's what I
in-
mean.
In the
You know,
envelope.
I get the information in my electric bill, and sometimes I look at it, sometimes I don't. It just depends on.
And if I'm not mistaken, depending on your home and how it's wired, some may require more than one surge protector.
Depends on how many meters you have. They're plugged in at the meter.
It's at
There's
the
some
meter.
meters that, because of the size and because of the load, we don't have meter treaters that would cover those. So it does go up to a certain point.
It's not per panel? It's not per panel?
No.
Okay.
Anything else? Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, discussion items. Item 4. Mr. Minor.
Just making sure everybody got the email. We're going to be able to bring for April the power cost adjustment down to a penny per kilowatt. So that knocks about $10 off your average 1,000 bill. As far as what that looks like is right now we're sitting, I think I stuck a chart like this in the email that went out to this board and the commission. So that brings it down from 127.94 to 117.94. Puts us about 9th now in the state. So right now we're about average on the muni bills, the average being 127.41 from the last FMEA report. So I think that's an exciting thing. It hasn't been at that level for a little bit of time. And actually we're optimistic. Hopefully we can keep it there for a little while. Most of the reports coming in from FMPA and those type of things, we're looking at about $80 power for the all requirements project. So that for us means about $85 the way the things break down. So hopefully looks like there's some stability there, especially with some of the hedgings that we've done and the market kind of being a little more stable. So hopefully we can keep it there for a little bit.
Good. Any questions, Val? Item B. Mr. Swartz. Teacher location incentive concept.
This has been a concept that's been batted around for quite some time in different ways. Typically, what I would say anecdotally and emotionally, like, wouldn't it be great if? And I believe at one point the conversation was, could we discount electric rates for teachers in the area? And there's all kinds of reasons why I believe that would probably be a challenge. But in working with the school district and Superintendent Cornegie, I was able to get some specific numbers, and having listened over the last few months as to sort of the financials of what we're talking about here, talking to Al about what are the costs for somebody to have electric turned on in their home. And to put this very simply, over the last 3 years, there's been an average of 206 new employees in what is considered the Leesburg feeder district. So that's the 9 schools that make up elementary, middle, and high school, 206 teachers. If all 206 of those were to move into this area and need utility services turned on, and there's 3 services, water, electric, gas, if they needed all 3 of those, we're talking about a maximum of $4,200 to facilitate that benefit to teachers as an incentive to come to the Leesburg area schools. We're in a unique situation because they are homes that are served by Leesburg Utilities. There's not a lot of other places throughout the county where, you'd have to go to the big guys, if you will. Al's talked about Duke and Seco and all that. And I felt like this might be an opportunity to kind of bring this concept back up to everybody. What I proposed in this presentation is a 2-year beta test to basically look at it and say, is this actually a benefit? Do teachers perceive it as something that's going to be of value to them? Can the school district use this as a way to go to other entities? Maybe it's cable, maybe it's cell, whatever the services might be, and say, look, the city of Leesburg's utilities have stepped up and said they're willing to do this. What might you be willing to do to help us put together an incentive package to draw the best and brightest here at the Leesburg feeder pattern schools?
So I love the idea. I just had a question. Why the private schools in the area are included? So St. Paul's, First Academy, the Montessori School, they all have employees who live in Leesburg.
They do. And I think there's 2 ways to look at this. I think it's a let's start somewhere concept. And also when you're looking at the public schools, like I can't speak to necessarily what the compensation numbers are for some of the private schools.
Well, I have several friends who work at First Academy, and I know that they make what a teacher at Leesburg High School makes, right? So I would just be curious if that wouldn't be something that could be offered in consideration for it, because, and I say this without trying to sound terrible, the people who send their kids there may be rich, but the teachers there aren't. And so I would definitely just offer that as something to be considered with this, because it's an amazing idea. And I think that we should be trying to recruit and bring in people and give them some compensation for it. I'm just curious if the private schools teachers shouldn't be considered for it.
I think that opens up a much larger conversation about the public schools that are taxpayer funded versus the private schools. What I do know, and it's in the presentation, is, as you are probably aware, Lake County is the 19th largest county and funded 64 of 67 per pupil. So, and again, it's not to completely dismiss, and we could have a dynamic conversation about what about first responders, what about. I would love to see after 2 years, after we take a step back and say, okay, of the potential pool, how many took advantage of this? Can the school district, and we have a couple representatives from the school district, will they be able to come back to us and say, look, we know that because of these types of things, we were able to recruit teachers that maybe they were on the fence. And selfishly, while they represent Lake County, we represent Leesburg.
Right.
Did we maybe tilt somebody over to Leesburg that maybe may have gone to Claremont? I know, let's keep them in Lake County if at all possible, but let's move them to Leesburg if we can.
Yeah.
But I look at it inverse to what you're saying. I'm looking at it, if a teacher moves to the Leesburg area, why should they not get that regardless of whether they work in Claremont or anywhere else? I mean, if we're going to offer the program to the teacher that's moving in our area. And then if you're picking and choosing, if it's in the Leesburg area, there's 2 schools that do not buy City of Leesburg Electric that are on here, which they're in our area, but they don't buy the electric.
Which schools are those?
That would be Treadway and Villages Elementary.
Okay.
That's why I was thinking about it the inverse way, to say if a teacher moves in, you get this ability to have this forgiven, regardless, because it's going to help the school system.
Sure. And I understand where you're coming from. I'm not sure that I necessarily see the connection in that if you have an independent citizen who's accepted a position working at a school that is outside of, because they don't really have the option whether they purchase Leesburg Electric or not. It's where they're zoned for those services. But it might be somebody who's living in Fruitland Park but works at Villages Elementary. In my mind, based on the criteria that I suggested, is sort of, again, a preliminary plan, they would qualify for that based on where they're residing.
I was trying to make it merrier for everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this kind of falls into IP. When I was in commission, not very popular, but the libertarian me comes out and like an incentive for someone's a tax on everyone else. Our teachers are underpaid. I don't think it's the electric company's I feel like our goal should be to give low rates to everyone. And, I mean, I've got a lot of employees that I know struggle to make ends meet and could benefit from this. And, I think they're every bit as deserving as teachers are. And I absolutely hate incentives based on job titles. Like I'm against every exemption for the your property tax, save our homes, like all that. Like I think everyone should just, if we're gonna talk about stuff, it should be income based, not job based. And so a teacher whose husband's a doctor is gonna get the same thing as anyone else. And like I think the program like means very well, and like can absolutely see why, and it would probably be very popular, and why certainly when I was on commission lost about every single one of these votes. But that's just that's just how I feel on it. So, but that's all I'll say about that. I understand that.
There are income-based programs, though, aren't there? There is a safety net type of program based on, isn't there? I thought there was a fund.
Yeah, utility billing assistance.
Yeah.
To the building, your fire assessment, there's some sort of program.
There is on the fire assessments. You can have an income waiver for the fire assessment.
Yeah.
Well, this was a discussion item anyway, right? I mean, it's,
Well, I think the hope would be is whether we as an advisory board can generate enough support amongst ourselves to, as I understand, the city commissioner would then bring it to the commission with our recommendation for consideration. Ultimately, it's going to be their decision anyway.
okay, so you're asking for a vote on this tonight, or just to take it to the city and see the city commissioners and see what they say? I'm trying to. Is that where we're headed with
That's
this?
my understanding. Would that be accurate, Al?
Yeah, the electric advisory board is new, so we're all a little bit in uncharted territory about how we go about these things. My suggestion would be to make a motion to say we recommend this, and go from there. If there's not the support to do this, which I think was what Mark's asking for, it can be something still flushed out at the commission level. My anticipation, not to throw any curveballs, is as we move into the budget process, we'll work with y'all for budget. That'll be that next meeting. That budget will then go before the commission, I think first part of July. So if we need 2 meetings kind of to bang out the budget and go over stuff, my thought process would be to give the commission a little bit of an update on what y'all have been doing this year. I think we kind of started in earnest in December or January. Mm-hmm. So as part of the budget process of the electric fund to the commission, we'll say, hey, this is what we've been doing. And that's, your positive or negative vote. That would be one, or no vote, however you would want to do it. That would be probably one of the bullets I'd stick on there and saying, hey, they talked about this. I don't know if that gets their attention or not, but if you guys affirmatively say this is something we want to do collectively, then yeah, I would bring that to the commission right away, and that would require a resolution for them to approve and put into place. Did that make sense?
Yes, just making sure, so based off the paperwork that I have here in front of us, that the utilities this would cost them about $4,200.
If all on average, so again, we use the number of 206.
206 employees.
If every single one of them had moved into this area and were Leesburg Electric.
And used the program.
And used all 3 utilities, gas, electric, and water, then that's what the maximum number would have been based on that average number.
And this is not just teachers. This is anyone who works for the schools, as written.
So
Correct.
it could be a school janitor.
Correct.
Okay. Which, by the way, hands up for the janitors.
Amen.
People who stack chairs and clean toilets.
Especially this time of year. as
My
the kids get ready to
my
leave.
heroes.
Right? Look, again, I think my whole mindset on this was, is this an opportunity, number one, for us as an advisory board to maybe put something out there that might not have been flushed out to this degree, and as a starting point. And in 2 years, we may look at this and say, it really didn't make much of a difference, or we may find
People utilized it or they didn't.
that it was a valuable opportunity. And we did try to kind of figure out, putting together specific criteria that was going to be very tangible and very quantifiable, and holding the teachers accountable. They've got to fulfill a full year of employment. So.
And I was about to ask that. So what would be the contract basis on that? So would it be they have to work for the city or for the school for a year, and then do they pay it back if they don't fulfill that contract?
So typically, and you all can correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is typically they are signing annual contracts.
Okay.
Right. So we know coming in, we've got proof of paperwork to say so-and-so is moving to the area to take a job at Leesburg Elementary. They're within the service area of Leesburg Electric. Here's a copy of their one-year agreement. We're going to waive the $205 maximum dollars for their turning on their electric for them.
Okay.
So who's going to monitor all of this?
Yeah, I was about to say.
Well,
So
that's what I was saying.
what?
Put the criteria in place.
It's not-
And then you walk away. Like if they don't fulfill their contract, you're not going to go back and get it. It's going to cost you more
Right.
than $205 to do it. It's this is a thing. Please agree to this and do this, and 90% of
Because
it will.
you wouldn't have a different employee just to cover this.
No.
Yeah.
I would hope not.
Pretty minimal. I mean, when you talk about
it's-
29,000 customers.
It'd be a de minimis type of administrative thing.
I would agree with Dan. Give it to them, and but they
Hope
don't
they do
fulfill
their
it.
part.
Yeah,
Then
whatever.
a pox on them. We'll put it in their file for their future employment.
As long as it doesn't hurt their credit rating.
We'll garner their future wages at their next school district.
Well, my only concern was including the inclusiveness of it. It's kind of minimizing what could really happen. I think geographically it should be in the city of Leesburg utility area. Whoever actually moves to the city of Leesburg that works for the Lake County school system.
I think we're saying the same thing. What am I misunderstanding?
Well, if they work in Claremont, if they work in Tavares, that type.
Yeah, because all we would, from a utility perspective, all we should care about is that they have Leesburg utilities.
Right. That's where I was headed.
Yes.
And
I
then,
guess.
I would agree with that if that's something
I mean,
we
the
feel
whole
is
goal is to get
important.
people here.
Sure.
And they're going to spend money downtown or
Yep.
wherever. So
Yep, definitely an economic impact if we can recruit people to the area.
And hopefully get tired of the drive to Claremont and decide they want to teach in Leesburg.
Exactly.
does
worse every
the
year.
school system have anything to say? I know they're here.
No, we're here, and we agree, we would love to see this emotion pass. And on our side, and we can make this program part of the relocation package that we inform when we have applicants come to our job fairs. And it could be another incentive that we can provide them. And as far as being able to confirm they're an employee with us within this area, it's very easy for us to provide that employee a letter, verification of employment, that they can submit whenever they're registering for services.
That'd be great.
So that's very easy for me to be able to concede from our department to that new employee moving into the area. And we'll be very thankful and honored to be partners in this.
Are you aware of anybody else in the state that's doing this?
So there are a couple of school districts in the south that have started looking at trying to do something like this. Nothing that I'm aware of with utilities in the state of Florida. A lot of what they've been able to do have been offer some sort of discount for like housing with apartment complexes and such. I think I had heard about a school district in another state that was able to do that, because you guys said there's not a lot of them that are in Florida where they're able to make that happen. But a lot of them are trying to do that, offer incentives, for specific areas that we have difficulty recruiting. I will say, as the recruiter on the teacher side of the house, that most of my candidates that I recruit into the Leesburg schools are coming into this area. We rely pretty heavily on people moving here for our instructional recruitment.
I don't even know where you're putting them.
That's another problem, yeah.
We won't go there, though. So Mark, what, do you want to move a motion on this?
Sure, yeah, I mean, so the motion would be support of this proposal being forwarded to the Leesburg Commission.
With the codicil of it being anybody that works in, that comes to Leesburg, works in the Lake County school system.
I'm okay with that.
That way, everybody's included, we're not excluding anybody.
Right, I think all teachers need to be included. A teacher's a teacher, and, you have the government teachers, you have the private sector teachers, but with school choice now and Step Up for Students, you have just as many taxpayer-funded students going to First Academy and St.
Absolutely.
Paul's.
I agree with that.
So I wouldn't be able, I love the idea of the program, the possibility of it, but I wouldn't be able to, if I were on city council, I wouldn't be able to get behind it unless it was, you can't cherry pick that for me. I mean, I'm sorry. I would get behind it if it were all teachers that were Leesburg utility customers working in the Lake County area, but not just the government teachers, but the ones also.
Well, exactly. It's not like they're making bank
Right,
on that
because they're,
either.
and it's,
Now, what you are, and this would be for the city commission to hopefully.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
To hopefully to figure out, not that part, but that, it gets a little tricky when it comes to support staff, like at First Baptist. Like, who is support staff for the school?
Well, actually,
Well,
and
the school is
I
separate from-
I
I
don't know
will
about
say
First
this,
Baptist.
because I go to First
Okay,
Baptist,
so-
I will tell you that they're separate entities completely.
Okay.
So First Academy is entirely different set than First Baptist.
Yeah.
Like the janitor that takes care of First Baptist chairs and the pews is not the person that works at First Academy. They're
Okay.
completely separate.
They conflict all the time
Yeah.
over
Yeah.
stuff.
And that's just because I go there. That's the only reason I know that I can't speak for St. Paul's or Montessori or anything like that.
I'm a
I think,
wrestling coach.
You would want the intent to be,
It's really a
this is for
minimal
the
amount of money.
educational.
Right.
not for the-
No, yeah.
Yeah.
We're not trying to support churches on this. We're
Yeah.
talking about
So why
schools.
why don't we beta test it for 2 years with that criteria?
Do we have any sense as to what those numbers are? I mean, I didn't even
It's got to be a
explore
whole lot
that.
less than
How many- so
what you came up with.
Do we want to specifically identify which schools we think should be added to this list?
Well, any of them that have teachers.
I was about to say any school that's got a teacher that has Leesburg Electric.
That's got to be the first criteria is, of course, the Leesburg electric
So
side.
that would drop Rhymes and Treadway, right? Is that
Well,
correct?
no, it doesn't matter if
No,
they move
okay.
into the city limits.
Into the city
or
limits,
into the
okay.
city electric area. That's what I'm saying. There's your geographical boundary. So whoever moves in that boundary has this opportunity if they work for a school system or a school, private, public.
And
or
they're
whatever,
in our district,
Right.
basically.
and they're electric.
So it's not necessarily somebody who uses Leesburg Electric, but somebody who's in the Leesburg district.
No, Leesburg Electric. They
Yeah,
have-
yeah.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
teacher uses it.
Yes.
The school, we don't care.
Right.
I guess would be the thing. Yeah, right.
Al, you're thinking, I can see you smoking
Just-
right now.
Oh, well, can you put it back on the map? Chris's PowerPoint, that right there.
Blow
So,
that
so what you're saying, anybody who lives inside the red line,
Right.
that could be Fruitland Park, that could be unincorporated lake, that could be Leesburg. Anybody who's in that box, who's a teacher, gets,
So they can
The
move,
discount.
they can move to Fruitland Park and work in Marion County, or if you want to make
So
it
where would
criteria,
this
Lake County,
where would this fall at in our budget year?
start next year.
well, I think I think in conversation with Mark previously, when he introduced this concept to me, I think the concept of this to start it immediately. So for this fiscal year, because they're in the midst of recruiting, so they're trying to get teachers
Right.
here now who would start in August. And so that would kind of be year one. Then year two, then now they would have a full year to start getting teachers here for August 25.
When's our fiscal year start?
October 1.
October, okay.
So you're at, you're 6 months in, but again, in that number, that's it's not.
This is
it's
the worst
not-
case scenario, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it doesn't move
Yeah,
the
so
needle
the-
So even if we
financially.
include.
So
if
we're looking
200
at
people move in here,
$5,000.
200 families move in here, one of them is being employed by the school system as a teacher, it's still minimal.
Yeah, and it's a one-time deal, so it's not like it's an annual
Correct.
expense. It's just,
I think that's one of the sticking points from the past is this ongoing.
yeah, and this is not.
Yeah.
You move here once.
You're talking about $200, $205 waiver on one time
Yeah.
as a new resident to the area.
Yeah.
And that is one of the stipulations, is they must be a new resident. They can't be an existing Leesburg Electric customer who suddenly became a teacher or decided to teach here in the Lake County area or in the Leesburg area, and suddenly they get to apply for this. This is for new.
For new residents
Do you have
only.
enough to flesh it out?
I think so. Let me give it back to you so you know what you're voting on.
Or we can ask Ms. Purvis, because she's been over there writing
Well,
really, really
this
fast.
will help her. So it's a two-year beta program, if you will, for any teacher that's a new resident that leaves an electric, and you're waiving the connection fee,
Electric, gas, and water.
Water.
waiving utility connection fees.
And Romac lumber is going to make up the difference.
Stop.
Thanks, Dan.
I know what I was thinking. I was thinking, like, can I just charge the gas department for all of this?
The split did go through my head, but
Charge the money makers, right? How does that sound, Mark?
I think that's fair.
Okay. Okay.
I have concerns about the broad statement of teachers, and that's why I suggest that it might be worthwhile to identify where they are teaching. I think there needs to be criteria on who employs them as to what determines them being a teacher.
Well, that would be,
So it's not an education system. It's just teachers, is what you're talking about?
So, for instance, when we first moved here, my daughter went to a daycare provider who was a licensed teacher. Had she just opened up a new business, would she have been eligible for this? She's not employed by an educational facility, but had a license as a teacher.
So who's going to research that?
There's going to be a list.
That's I mean that's sort of the question
It
about
should just
opening
be on
it up.
like a registry or something like that with the state?
Yeah, like whoever's, I mean,
Yeah.
because they have the vouchers. If you're,
Right.
if a school's eligible for the vouchers, like, there must be a list of that, right, that
yeah, there
exists?
is. K through 12.
K through 12. So if you
Okay.
can get a voucher, you're a school. If you can't, you're not.
Pretty much.
Yeah. I mean, it seems to be.
Okay.
That would eliminate a daycare. That's a really good point, though.
you know, and I would define teacher as K through 12. So then you eliminate daycare.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because that will get sticky fast.
Now, I could put my Lake Sumter trustee hat
Well, then I
on
was just
right
going to
now.
I was going to say now, it's again.
Which that'd be a benefit for them too, but
Well, you might need
we
to
won't go there now.
Is this kind of how Congress works, where you put up a very simple bill, but
And then it
everybody
just-
adds their earmarks into it, and suddenly you're like, wait, what?
Now it's got to go to the commission. So
Well,
we-
and,
Yeah, exactly.
and preschool workers tend to kind of fluctuate more than teachers in general. But so I feel like that would not be a good investment as far as the city's concerned.
My compliments on this.
Thanks.
You did a good job.
I appreciate that.
And I appreciate you bringing it here. So, Al, will you go ahead and go through exactly what we're going to vote on now?
Okay, so we're doing a pilot program that would last for 2 years for a teacher who teaches grades K through 12. They have to be a new resident locating in Leesburg's electric territory. And if they meet all those criteria, they would get waived our connection fees for
With-
water,
with
sewer,
the-
and
with the
gas.
ability
Or
of voucher.
gas, electric,
Water.
and water.
And water. But you have to put the voucher in there somewhere.
Voucher.
Because I
yeah,
think-
the commission, they'll have to determine that.
I really think that,
Yeah.
Needs to be something signed.
Yeah.
because that means it is true K through 12.
Oh, okay.
It's not, that gets,
So voucher is evidence that they're a teacher.
Bingo.
Gotcha.
That's-
I thought you were a
I
financial
was
voucher.
too,
That's-
okay.
Okay.
The evidence, and that's not a hard deal. Obviously there, because they're going to give the contract, and there
Right.
you go. And so the private schools will figure it out as we go along, but it's a new resident, so. Evidence of employment.
Is that your motion?
Sold.
Second?
Second.
More discussion? All in favor except Dan, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
He-
This
he
was
did say-
exciting, in the 8 years on the commission, I got to vote against churches and firefighters and police, but never teachers. So I got that one too.
You're welcome. Hat trick.
Full
There you
Monty.
go.
You got the full Monty.
When the lightning strikes, I want to be sitting on that side of the
Dan, Stalin, Roebuck.
Oh, I love it.
Well,
I
kidding
love it.
aside, I appreciate you guys considering this. I kind of feel like I'd like for us to be able to serve some sort of purpose here.
It's different.
maybe-
It's different area.
We're
is what it is.
on our way.
So I'm not sure if we can make this to May 13, but if we don't get it to May 13, we'll get it to May 28.
Okay.
Okay.
That'll give Mark time to visit every one of them, I'm sure.
That's right. Now you have to go to lobby.
Actually, Mark can't do that. That would be a sunshine violation.
Correct. Shame on you.
Yeah.
You know better.
Slap, slap.
Can't do that.
Well,
He
we've
can't
already
lobby
had.
the
We've already
commission.
heard.
He
We've
can't
already.
lobby us. He doesn't serve on the board of the commission.
He can
I would
lobby the
have to look
commission now that
into
we
that.
voted on it. He can
Yeah.
lobby the commission. It's
I think he
before.
can lobby the
He
commission.
might
It's
be
before
able
the law. It's before you can't lobby the city commissioner.
He can't lobby us.
Yeah. All right. Is there anything else for the good of the order? Roll call. Jack. Anything?
All good?
All good here. Mark.
Go Gators.
Go Gators.
That's right. Go Gators.
Dan. Hal.
Yes, sir.
Okay. We stand adjourned.
Is there something going on?